Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business, back from our little end of the year hiatus that we had here, but we are glad to be back here live here at 11 o'clock here at Robat TV. Of course, it catches later on demand on Robat TV and on the YouTube page. And join us as we look back on the business world and what has happened. Well, since we've been gone, some updates obviously closer here as the stock market closed out 2025 in a positive fashion. And look, today's January 5th, first major day back in trading side of things. We'll get you updated on all that. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so here at McCollum on Business, I'll get you updated on what's happening around the business world, local stories, national stories, and of course, stock market and stocks we're paying attention to right now. And let's not delay it at all. Our first game back, our first show back. Let's get it started with the Market Watch. Got to get back into the rhythm of this, right? And we're starting off at January here on January 5th, this Monday, with a very, very positive day out there. Right now, the Dow Jones is up 807 points. Yes, 49,156. A lot of that is based off of the energy sector, oil, etc. That'll be our first story coming up for you. The S&P 500 is up 49 points right now to 6907. The Nasdaq's up 184 points as we're looking at it right now to 23,419. Russell 2K, the small cap index, 40 points up to 2546. And then there's Bitcoin. We haven't looked at the stock market in about 2 weeks here. We took about the week and a half off or so here for the end of the year. And Bitcoin, it's improved a lot since that low 80 number, mid 80 number it was trading at last time we saw it. Been in that 90,000 range here for about a week or so. 94,036 today, up 25.50 for Bitcoin as we're looking at that right now. And what's the big driver today on the market? Well, it's simply energy stocks out there. We're talking like Chevron and those types of stocks, mainly because of what happened over the weekend here. And of course, we're going to look at Chevron is the first one we're going to look at, up 5.75% here today as well. Basically, every major U.S. oil company is up today following that U.S. attack on Venezuela, and then, of course, captured and ousted the leader of Venezuela as well, Nicolas Maduro. They see these energy companies are seen as beneficiaries from the rebuild of energy infrastructure down there in Venezuela. So they're all up today. Chevron's the first one, 5.78% up. ExxonMobil also up today, our next stock that we're going to look at as well. By the way, Chevron, the only American oil company that operates in Venezuela right now. They have a special contract. Nobody else can do it. ExxonMobil's up to 2.41% today as well for today. And then oilfield services leader, we'll talk about Halliburton here. We'll look at them as well. Big news here for Halliburton in that market, and Halliburton's up 10.74% today. And what they're saying now, Chevron obviously has a presence down there in Venezuela, so they're big up today based off of that news. But then there's talk of Valero being the biggest winner in this deal when all's said and done. So let's take a look at Valero's stock here. And the reason why, well, Valero can start operating in that country again. They are actually a Venezuelan company originally. 9.78% up here today for Valero. And like I said, when the country opens up, exploration starts to happen there again, etc. Valero is expected to be a big beneficiary of that happening out there. So their stock's up 9.78% here today as well. So that's kind of driving the stock market here on this Monday, January 5th. Stocks we're going to look at later on. We're going to have a story for you on Berkshire Hathaway. Of course, their 60-plus year leader of that company retired on January 1st. New one in there. We'll take a look at that stock coming up. General Motors and Stellantis. We'll look at some automotive vehicle stocks out there, automotive stocks, later on when we come back and look at the stock market as well. But first, we're talking all about the energy sector and the oil in Venezuela in terms of the national prospect of things. And Venezuela, when you look it up, it has more than 300 billion barrels of oil sitting underneath its land, basically, right? It's bigger oil reserves than established energy companies and countries and the heavyweights out there. We're talking it's bigger than Saudi Arabia, Iran, and even Kuwait. It has about 20% of the global supply, and that's all results to about quadruple the amount that the U.S. has here in our area of the country. Venezuela's big, folks, and if we're able to get back to the oil exploration there and things, it's going to mean big money here for the American oil companies. But the oil there in Venezuela, it's very difficult and it's very expensive to produce, difficult to pull out of the ground, very expensive to produce it and turn it into gas and other items out there. So all the companies we looked at in terms of stocks, right? Well, a lot of them have yet to say whether they plan to actually return to Venezuela to kind of help them resurrect that oil industry that's been basically squalled down to nothing after years of neglect here with that Modelo, Maduro, excuse me, regime that's happening down there in Venezuela. So it's interesting times. That's kind of why the stock market's taking up there. Now, as I said, Chevron's the only U.S. oil company operating in Venezuela. They have a special charter in order to do so. Nobody else is allowed to do it. So they're already there. And then the other companies have said they're not sure. They're just going to follow the applicable laws, et cetera, if they're going to get back into Venezuela out there. So we don't know what's going to lead to. Obviously, a lot of unknowns, but at least the stock market today is reacting as a positive one on these energy companies as well. We talk a lot last year, 2025 AI, defense systems orderings for countries outside of the United States for Apache helicopters, etc. But then we find out this that happened at the beginning of the year as well. Last Friday, Beijing came out and they imposed sanctions on, against 20 U.S. defense-related companies. And why do they do that? And they also not just the 20 companies, but actually 10 executives as well. Well, that's because of as we were going off air for the end of the year, Washington announced large-scale arms sales that happened from the U.S. Over to Taiwan. So these sanctions that China's imposing on these 20 companies and 10 executives as well. What does that mean? Well, it's freezing the company's assets in China. And they also are banning the 10 individuals that they're sanctioning, as well as the organizations, from dealing specifically with China. That's what that means when they say they're sanctioning them. The companies include big ones out there: Northrop Grumman Systems, L3 Harris Maritime Services, even Boeing was on this list as well for this out there. Defense firm Anduril Industries, their founder Palmer Luckey, he's one of those executives that was sanctioned, which means he can no longer do business in China, and he's barred from actually entering China altogether. Those assets in the East Asian country have also been frozen for those 20 companies and those 10 executives. The announcement of the U.S. arms sales package happened while we were away, so I'll refresh your memory here. It was valued at more than $10 billion. And obviously, China's not too happy about that. Why? Well, China claims it owns Taiwan, and it says it must come underneath Chinese control. And if that deal, that $10 billion deal, is approved by Congress here in America, well, it would be the largest ever U.S. weapons package to be to Taiwan as well, to kind of protect them from any Chinese aggressions at that point. So China reacting negatively to that $1 billion arms sale out there. And, just this battle between the U.S. and China continues to move on, I guess you can say. There's even some China twists in that Venezuela situation down there as well, where they had just met with the president of Venezuela and was working out some oil deals with them, and then the U.S. went in and captured him and took it out, and they were still the Chinese group was still there when it happened, and just this battle is going to continue here between the two countries. We're going to look at specifically Berkshire Hathaway's stock later on and just tell you where it's at here today, but it is official, and we got to give some tribute here to a guy that's very successful here on a Walmart and running a very successful business over the last 60-year run. Of course, we're talking about the CEO or the former CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett out there. Yes, he is finally retired from running Berkshire Hathaway, and it happened as of January 1st of this year. He's 95 years old. He officially stepped down. His successor, Greg Abel, who's been groomed to be a successor for several years now, well, he does take over there on January 2nd. He started at Berkshire, Greg Abel did, back in 2000. He served as vice chairman of its board of directors as he took over the company officially on Friday. Interesting enough, you look up last year's, stock gains, etc. Well, last year, because it was Warren's last year, CEO, well, Berkshire Hathaway gained about 10.9% on the market last year. By the way, Warren Buffett isn't going away at 95 years old. He's retiring, but he's going to remain on as chairman for the time being as well, there for that large conglomerate company that kind of does run the stock market out there. And we'll look at their stock here coming up in our next segment as well. And other stories that have kind of happened over the weekend that affect businesses out there. Saks Fifth Avenue. I don't know if you've shopped there recently or anything, but yeah, they're making some changes here, right? They are owned by a private company nowadays, and the Saks Fifth Avenue, that company owns the Saks and then Neiman Marcus as well. Well, that top executive is stepping down as CEO. Well, this company is struggling with debt taken on to buy the rival almost 2 years ago. The debt from this purchase of Saks 2 years ago, of Neiman Marcus, excuse me, 2 years ago, is affecting this company even to this day. So the parent company's name is Saks Global Enterprises. They said on Friday that their CEO, Mark Metrick, is leaving effective immediately. He'll be replaced by another executive out there, and the executive chairman, Richard Baker. Baker will continue to serve as executive chairman as well as CEO as well. So a lot of this is because of the $2.65 billion acquisition of Neiman Marcus that Saks did in the summer of 2024. But also, they're facing a lot of other things out there in terms of the marketplace, right? They're facing increasing competition from a fragmenting luxury goods sector. We see this a lot with, the larger brands like Michael Kors and those types of brands. Hudson Bayco, they're the Canadian owner of Saks Fifth Avenue. They split off the luxury retailer's e-commerce business, Saks.com, back in 2021. And then, acquired Neiman Marcus as well. But Saks Fifth Avenue has changed its name to Saks Global over the years. So if you're looking that up, that's where you can find it. They are based there in New York City, Saks Global is. It completed a $600 million notes offering in August in an effort to kind of get better liquidity out there after that Neiman Marcus acquisition last year and just continue to struggle with that and now making a top executive change. And another big change at the top of a specific industry is online as well. It's official, officially official. Yes, Tesla, we're going to talk about now. They lost, finally, finally lost its crown. Yes. They are no longer the world's best selling electric vehicle maker. Yes. Obviously, a lot of things went into this, right? Customer revolt on the politics that Elon Musk got into. The another big thing was the U.S. tax breaks that happened last year. That $7,500 tax break going away as well. And then the other thing is their sales dropping in China and overseas markets because of that stiff overseas competition. Well, it's all pushed sales down for a second year in a row for Tesla. Tesla did say that it delivered 1.64 million vehicles in 2025. That's down 9% from a year earlier. And they were down the year before also. Who's the best one? Well, that Chinese company, BYD. Yeah, they sold 2.26 million electric vehicles last year. That is now the biggest EV maker in the world. And also, interesting enough, for the fourth quarter, if you want to look just at Tesla's numbers, well, their sales total 418,227. Yeah, that's short of the 440,000 target that was already reduced by analysts, and it fell way short of that already reduced number also. Sales were hit hard by that expiration of that $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicle purchase. Of course, that went away at the end of September. And we're going to talk some more vehicle stuff here coming up when we talk General Motors, Stellantis. Yeah, a lot of these companies got hit hard in the fourth quarter after those September tax breaks went away. So we'll talk about that some more coming up. But Tesla, no longer the number one electric vehicle manufacturer in the world. And you want to pay attention to this here as well. Tax season is officially upon us here. It's January 5th, right? Couple months to get your filings in there, but we've seen some numbers change and whatever. So much so I stopped reporting on the number changes because they were changing, quite frankly, a lot. But now we have the official IRS contribution limit changes for things like popular retirement plans. This includes the 401k and IRAs out there. So pay attention here, but for this 2026 year, if you can contribute to the 401k and 403b plans, even the government 457 plans are involved in this, and the thrift savings plan would be part of this as well, I believe. But you'll see your contribution limits rise to $24,500 in 2026. That's an increase from 23,500 in 2025. So that was announced there in November timeframe as a refresher for you. The IRA contribution limit, it's rising to the new year. It's up to $7,500 in 2026. That's up $500 there from 7,000 in 2025. So now, if you're older and you want to catch up on things, right? So 50 and up, if you participate in the 401k, 403b, and those 457 government plans, you'll have your catch-up contribution limit increased to $8,000 in 2026. That's up from another $500 from 7,500 that was available to you in 2025. So if you are eligible for catch-up contributions and participate in such plans, we'd see your total contribution limit rise to 32,500 starting here, beginning of January of 2026, is what you're looking at there. So new numbers there for you. If just heads up, get you updated on that here at the start of the year, and we'll wrap up this segment here by just saying bluefin tuna. Are you a fan? What if I told you about a 535-pound bluefin tuna? Yes. So 243 kilograms over in Japan. Well, it fetched a record-setting 510 million yen, which is about $3.2 million. Yes, this is Tokyo's first fish auction of 2026. They do this every year, and there's a new record set every year, by the way. The Toyosu Fish Market is where this all goes down every year as well. Interesting enough, like every year the fish gets bigger, price gets higher. So this fish was obviously big last year. Did they not catch it last year? Like, what was the deal with this? It's not like it just grew that big this year, or did it? The winning bid at this early morning sale came, well, Monday morning, and it came from Kiriyama Corporation. They're the operator of the sushi Zanmai restaurant chain over there in Japan. They broke his previous record of 334 million yen, which is 2.1 million that he paid back in 2019 for this type of fish. The tuna was caught off Oma in northern Japan. That's a region widely regarded for producing some of the country's finest tuna of there in Japan. So they just happened to catch the big one again this year, I guess, to get to the amount. But that much money, what he does is he chops it up, sells it for an ungodly amount of ungodly price there in Japan in his sushi restaurants, and makes it obviously a lot of pub for him as well. So there you go. Bluefish tuna. Through the roof in terms of pricing. Well, that would be why, right? If you see that out there. And when we come back here at McCollum on Business on this Monday edition, we come back, talk some local stories out there. Good news. If you're, in the $15 an hour range here, well, you're going to get a pay raise here as of January 1st. We'll talk to you about the minimum wages happening right now. A couple other local stories coming your way. We'll look at a couple of the car stocks out there as well. Berkshire Hathaway, get you updated on. We'll wrap up this Monday show here, first one of 2026. Nice and easy today as we get back into the swing of things here today. So come on back, folks. It's McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business Monday edition. Back after a couple of weeks off. We can a couple of days off there to finish up the new year. Of course, we're here live at 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday, as long as markets are open. And back to our regular gigs here. Of course, earlier today, we had the main event. Breaking news at the end of the main event. Jonathan Gannon was let go of his duties there as Arizona Cardinals head coach. Kind of a surprise to everybody. Is this everybody's been talking about his job was safe. Now, official there, it is Black Monday there for coaching in the NFL. I know we have 5 positions open as of showtime here on McCollum on Business. But if you're interested in the sports side of things, of course, catch us here on Robat TV here with the main event, 8 to 10 a.m. live. And, of course, on demand here at Robat TV as well. Posted right now for you. Also on the YouTube page and the free podcast systems out there, Spotify, Google, Apple, anything you listen to, iHeart, be there for you as well. All posted right now. Of course, this show, as soon as we're done, on demand at Robat TV as well. Then, of course, on the YouTube page as well. And then, you saw the ads there for the pit stop. We are a month or so away from the pit stop returning for the racing year coming up. And folks, it's going to be a fun year out there. Daytona 500 coming up beginning of February. F1 starting up again. Of course, all of those racing tours will be exciting to get you started here on the racing season with the Pit Stop. At the Pit Stop Talk is where you can find that show there on, of course, the podcast systems, the YouTube channel, and, of course, Robat TV as well. And you just saw the ad there for the Real Matrix, the angry patriots out there, telling you about how the way the world is going. Well, folks, his new episode comes out. Took a couple of weeks off with the holidays, of course, with Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve being on the Wednesdays. Well, back again this week here. We're moving them to another day instead of Wednesday. Stay tuned this week. It'll be Thursday or Friday to give you a heads up when new episodes do come out. But it'll be Wednesday. It'll be constant every week after this, Thursday or Friday of this week. We'll get it rolling out there as well. Find them here, Robat TV. It's got its own channel. You can get caught up on the 13 first episodes there as well. Free podcast system. Just search The Real Matrix. Pops right up for you as well on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, etc. Of course, on the YouTube page as well of the shows that we produce here on the program. And folks, appreciate you joining us with everything we do. Excited to get this shows back up and running here, back into regular mode after the holidays. Hopefully your holidays were a good one. And let's get right back into the Market Watch. Nothing's changed. Everything's way up today, right? Investors are basically seeing little market risk from all this Venezuela action that's happened. Told you energy stocks are through the roof today, very high up based off of the news as well. And that's why the Dow Jones is up to 833 points. S&P 500 is up 54 points. The Nasdaq's up 160 as we talk right now. The Russell 2K, that small cap index is up 41 points as we talk right now. And there's Bitcoin up 2,400 today, roughly. But I can tell you, while we've been gone, it's been in that 90,000 range, far up from that 85,000 it was trading at for a couple weeks before we wrapped up the year. So 93,937 there for Bitcoin here today. Stocks we're looking at, what we talked about, the new CEO going into Berkshire Hathaway is Warren Buffett officially retired here on the 31st of December in 2025. Well, that's the first stock we're going to look at right now. Berkshire Hathaway is up 0.78% here today as well. And they have the A stocks, they have the B stocks, they have a bunch of different ones listed there, all up today based off of that news there as well. This is the B stocks here. The A stocks are also up about a 1 point today as well. That, of course, is the one that's, several $100,000 that they never split it out there. All up. Did dip on Friday with the news of the new CEO. Obviously, it's been news we've been expecting for a while. But we knew it was coming. But stock was down on Friday, back up here today as well. Next stock we're going to look at, General Motors out there. Well, GM came out today. They're up 2.61%. They reported a 5.5% increase in its annual U.S. sales in 2025. Here's the interesting thing. We talked about Tesla losing the number one EV seller market share to that Chinese company, BYD. And we know that Tesla's sales tanked after September the end of September when those tax credits went away. Well, same thing for the regular companies out there. General Motors, like I just told you, 5.5% increase in annual U.S. sales, 2025, 6.9% decrease just in the fourth quarter alone, with a lot of those tax breaks going away in these car sales out there. And they sold a lot of EVs last year leading up to those September tax breaks going away. But GM up 2.65% right now. Next stock, well, actually, hold on. I'll give you more info on GM before we move on. I apologize for this. I just saw this note written here. CNBC is telling us that EV sales were very large last year for a GM, but also gains in large SUVs and entry-level vehicles. Things like the Buick and Vista were huge sales there for General Motors last year. So it wasn't all EVs, but it was a big market for them. But 6.9% decrease in the fourth quarter tells you those tax breaks going away stop people from buying those EVs, right? And then you got Stellantis out there. Well, look at them. They're down today, which 0.92% right now. Earlier, when I was getting ready for the show, they were down 3.3%. Well, they are still executing that turnaround plan here for the United States. This company has been trying to get out of this COVID bubble that they've been in for a long time now. And interesting enough, there is positives here for Stellantis, which we haven't had positives for this company for a long time. Well, Stellantis' Jeep brand, they make a bunch of different brands out there, but Jeep specifically, it was up less than 1% last year, which for anybody else, this would be an utter disappointment. But for Stellantis, it is a big improvement. Why? Well, because Jeep only being up less than 1% in 2025, they achieved its first U.S. annual sales gain since 2018, folks. Yeah, Stellantis making still not great, but making some positive trends, and Jeep getting out and achieving that first U.S. annual sales gain since 2018 is big news for Stellantis out there. No doubt about it for them. As they're just continuing to try to dig out of this hole that they moved themselves into. We don't have the graphs for these here, but I can tell you Toyota Motor, their sales were up 8% in 2025. Hyundai, well, third consecutive year, of record sales. 8.4% increase for Hyundai as well. And then Honda Motor, they were up 0.5% last year as well. So these are the U.S. versions of automakers, U.S. side of these automakers for 2025 sales for these companies out there. Now let's get into some local stories here as we wrap up this first Monday show here of 2026. I keep got to remember, got to say 26. You got to write 26. The small things we deal with at the beginning of a year. But one thing we know for sure, well, as of January 1st, minimum wages here in Arizona rose from $14.70 per hour. It's up to $15, and 15 cents now in Arizona. Now I can tell you also up in Flagstaff, it's higher number than that 15.15. Flagstaff does get a bigger bump than we do everywhere else in the state. Now this all happens because of voter-approved law from 2016. Arizona's minimum wage is tied to inflation, which, as you know, we've been dealing with a very inflationary period over the last 2, 3, 4 years. So that is why we're seeing these big increases here in the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage, that's still low. It's at $7.25. That hasn't changed at all since 2009 for the federal side of things. So the minimum wage, well, if you want to know where we stand at this $15.15 per hour, well, it's more than double what it was in Arizona from 2011. Back then, it was $7.35 in 2011. So big increases here over the last 15 years to get up there as well. So now, interesting enough, Arizona is one of many states out there, several of them, that will get a higher minimum wage starting at the beginning of the year. A lot of other states have to vote them out there. We get it based off of inflation, based off of this law. And as I said, some Arizona cities do have higher minimum wages. For instance, Flagstaff's one of them as well. This doesn't apply to everybody, as you know. Those rules don't change, right? Tip workers, employees of small businesses making low annual revenue, There's some exceptions still there in terms of the minimum wage, but that is out there, and now you're seeing some $15.50 minimum wages here. So if you're working at that level, well, you got a pay increase here as well for you going into it. And interesting enough, we talk MMA a lot on the main event, live 8 to 10 a.m. on demand at Robat right now, especially on Thursdays with Uncle Lou coming in. He, of course, handicaps and talks MMA, UFC specifically, as well as the NFL and etc. And, we've known all along that there are some gyms here and everything, but I ran across this story on K-Jazz over the weekend as well. So K-Jazz kind of delved into why are so many high level gyms and facilities around MMA happening here in the Phoenix area specifically? Vegas is a hotbed for it, obviously, where the UFC is based. They do a lot of fighting up there and everything. Why is it so big here in Arizona? Well, K Jazz says there's the community here that embraces MMA. Of course, Arizona State University, some top wrestlers, wrestling group going and feeding people into that side as well. But then also the gyms here that are being built. Those gyms and facilities are built for high level to attract those big fighters wanting to get into the MMA and champions in the MMA as well. So, now, how big is the MMA itself, right? The UFC specifically. Well, media executive Mark Shapiro, he's the president and COO of Endeavor Sports, an entertainment company, owner of UFC, if you didn't know. Well, he came out and said in a conference in 2024 that MMA has actually replaced hockey as one of the big four sports. And that's just based off of the viewership side of things, is what they say. That's how many people watch them. They have weekly fights out there once they get started going for the most or a few weeks off, but not too many. From basically this year, January 23rd is when it gets started this year, as it goes to Paramount, all the way until beginning of December is when those fights happen, with only a few off weeks throughout that whole time frame. So why do so many people here call Arizona home in terms of the competitors and wanting to fight here as well, right? Well, a lot of people, as I said earlier, Arizona State's wrestling program is huge, nationally known as well. Well, they started as athletes over there at Arizona State University. So they start there. They want to stay here in Arizona. And ASU's wrestling program has actually become a well-known feeder system for the mixed martial arts and the UFC. So here in town, if you don't know, just to tell you, I found it's an interesting story since it's what we talk about with Uncle Lou there on Thursdays. Again, this Thursday coming up. Arizona Combat Sports, that's over in Tempe. That's a popular one. The MMA, excuse me, if I can learn to talk here, the MMA lab up in Phoenix, very big. Several champions coming out of that lab up there at I-17 and Bell Road. Fight Ready over in Scottsdale is another big one with a lot of guys competing for championships at high levels of there over in Scottsdale. Most well-known ones are MMA Lab and Fight Ready. Then you got Red Hawk Academy, that's over in Peoria. And there are a bunch of other smaller ones in town. But interesting story on how Arizona has become a hotbed here for training and working out and getting into that MMA side of things, specifically UFC. And we'll leave you today with Aldi. I've stepped foot in an Aldi before. I don't shop there regularly. There's one not too far from my house, right across from the Fry's that I usually shop at and everything. But they're making huge moves. Something to pay attention to with this Aldi chain out there. They're a discount grocery chain if you don't know what they are, but they recently acquired more land in Mesa, and it plans to build another store out there in the East Valley where they are growing like weeds. Now, if you don't know, Aldi is a German company there. Their headquarters are located in Illinois, though, but they opened its first store in Arizona back in 2020. Now they have more than a dozen, and they have several more in the works as well. Now, they buy the land where they're built on, so that gives you the clue where they're building one, right? In mid-December, Aldi acquired 3 acres on the southeast corner of Power and Elliott Roads. Yeah, there's going to be an EOS Fitness in there and a bunch of other ones. I see the sign a lot when I drive through that area. That's basically on the border of Mesa and Gilbert there. They bought that 3 acres for $2.4 million as well in mid-December, and they're planning on building a store there coming up. So Aldi continuing to make its growth spurt here in the valley as well there. So I'm just looking here really quick as this is a Monday, first big Monday here of the new year in terms of the stock market. Just seeing if anything is really trading or anything is really happening here as well. Phillips 66, speaking of an oil company out there, they're up 7% today. They agreed to buy assets related to infrastructure for some we don't know yet what they were doing it, but they're buying it from Lindsay Oil Refinery. That company is being liquidated by an official receiver out there. So Phillips 66, big stock increase here, 7% based off of that news as well. And then the language education app, Duolingo. Well, it's climbed 7% because Bank of America upgraded them to buy from neutral at that point. So, Duolingo. Hey, if you have a New Year's resolution, you've always wanted to learn a second language, you want to always travel to a country and you want to know the language yourself, well, Duolingo is the way to do that these days. And look at that. Their stocks up big today as well, folks. I appreciate you joining me here on this Monday edition of McCollum on Business. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow and the rest of the week, just like normal here at 11 o'clock. Come and join us, would you? Whether it's live here at Robat TV, YouTube page as well, or on demand at Robat TV. Check us out. Let us know. Everything's back up and running this week except for the pit stop. That's a few more weeks out here for the racing season to start. But, folks, appreciate you joining me. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great Monday night. See you all Tuesday.